Yo, hi guys, welcome to Academia. This is Vaibhav and we are in the University of Delhi actually now. So the content is coming to you from Delhi and not from my hometown. So that wooden wall is replaced by the wooden cupboards. Today we will be looking at the MCQs of the Darkling Thrush by Thomas Hardy. So these are a set of 25, 27 MCQs that have been gathered from various sources, books, specimen papers and the board paper of 2022 batch. Without any further ado, let's get into it. The pattern will be the same. I'll read out the question and the options. You can think over the options, come up with the option, and then tally with mine. The first is the poem The Darkling Thrush is an example of. The poem is an example of eulogy, elegy, allegory, or a fable. Is the Darkling Thrush a eulogy, or an elegy, or an allegory, or a fable? It's of course an elegy. Number two, the Darkling Thrush talks of the death of which century? The Darkling Thrush talks of the death of which century? The 18th century, the 19th century, the 20th century, none of the above. 18th, 19th, 20th, none of the above. Of course, it talks of the death of the 19th century. Number three, coppice here refers to, coppice gate refers to a place where copper is mined, a small woodland, an area of residence, all of the above. Coppice refers to a place where copper is mined, a small woodland, an area of residence, all of the above. Of course, it's a small woodland. Which figure of speech is used in the following phrase? Frost was spectre grey. Which figure of speech is used over here? Frost was spectre grey. Is it an alliteration or a metaphor or a simile or a personification? It of course is a metaphor. Frost was spectre grey. Basically the poet is trying to say, the poet speaker rather is trying to say that the frost was as grey as a ghost without using as or like. So it's a metaphor comparing the frost with the greyishness of a ghost. Next question. Act of leaning suggests that the speaker is, act of leaning, the speaker is leaning against the coppice gate. It suggests that the speaker is hopeless and morose, tired and dejected, disoriented and lost, none of the above. I come again, hopeless and morose, tired and dejected, disoriented and lost, none of the above. Now the options here are quite confusing. The correct answer, by the way, is disoriented and lost. The reason why we won't choose hopeless and morose as, the correct option is because tired and dejected and disoriented and lost. Out of these two, again, disoriented and lost seems to be the most accurate answer. So whenever in the MCQs, although they might not do so in the board question paper, but if you come across such options that are very similar, that are quite close to one another, always go with the option that is, that fits the best. That's the best sounding option. So in this case, tired and dejected, hopeless and morose are not as important as disoriented and lost are. The poet speaker is disoriented, does not know what will happen to humankind, does not know what the future holds for him or her. That is the state of affairs right now. So the poet speaker is disoriented and lost. Next question. The poem begins at what time of the day? At what time of the day does the poem begin? At twilight, frosty evening, sunny evening, or a sunny morning? I repeat, twilight, frosty evening, sunny evening, or a sunny morning. It's of course frosty evening. Next, weakening eye of the day. What is the eye over here? In weakening eye of the day, what does eye refer to here? Venus, stars, sun, or the moon? Venus, stars, sun, or the moon? The answer is of course sun. Which figure of speech is used in weakening eye of the day? Which figure of speech is used over here? We have to identify that. Is it personification or simile or metaphor or assonance? Personification, simile, metaphor, assonance. Phrase is weakening eye of the day. The answer is personification, because weakening eye of the day. Eye is, eye has been given, or rather the day has been given that human virtue of having an eye. So weakening eye of the day. Tangled bind stems scored the sky like strings of broken lyre. Figures of speech. Now, before I proceed with the options, figures of speech are, they hold a lot of potential in being asked in the MCQs. So be very aware, or be very mindful while going through the poem, while analyzing the poem. Be very mindful of, finding out the figures of speech, because they are potent enough to be asked in your MCQs. So the tangled bind stems scored the sky like strings of broken lyre. Which figure of speech is used over here? Alliteration, simile, assonance, or synecdoche? Tangled vine stems coat the sky like strings of broken lyre. So it's of course a simile. The lyres are broken. This implies the lyres, broken lyre, the lyres are broken implies to lack of music, lack of harmony, bad music taste, all of the above. Lack of music, lack of harmony, bad music taste, all of the above. Lack of harmony is the correct answer. His crypt the cloudy canopy. Which figure of speech is used over here? Crypt the cloudy canopy. Is it an alliteration or a metaphor or both or none of the above? Crypt the cloudy canopy. The k sound is being repeated. It is an alliteration, right? Alongside being an alliteration, it is also a metaphor. That's the beauty of literature. You can have multiple figures of speech in one phrase. Crypt the cloudy canopy. The clouds are compared to a vault, to a crypt of a tomb, right? Which is why it is alongside being a metaphor, alongside being an alliteration, a metaphor as well. So the correct option will be the third one, wherein it is both a metaphor and an alliteration. Next question. The land's sharp features are compared to. The land's sharp features are compared to a crypt, a lament, a corpse, a branch. A crypt, a lament, a corpse, a branch. The land's sharp features, a corpse. The century scopes. That is what the land's sharp features are being compared to. Next, the ancient pulse of German birth are shrunken, hard and dry. The ancient pulse of German birth are shrunken, hard and dry. This refers to lack of warmth, lack of movement, lack of procreative powers of nature, everything. Lack of warmth, lack of movement, lack of procreative powers of nature, everything. Lack of procreative powers of nature. That means the reproductive part of nature, the vita in reproduction, that also is dormant. Such is the state of affairs. There is so much of hopelessness. There is so much of stagnation. Future seems to be so bleak and morose that even the procreative powers of nature come at a standstill. So the ancient pulse of German birth, they are shrunken, hard and dry. This basically refers to the lack of procreative powers of nature. Next, every spirit upon earth seemed fervorless as I. Every spirit upon earth seemed fervorless as I. Figure of speech, without even knowing the options, we can simply say it is a simile. In any case, the options were simile, personification, metaphor, alliteration. So every spirit upon earth seemed fervorless as I. So it's a simile. Which among the following is used to describe the song? Which of the following options is used to describe the song? Illimited joy, full-hearted, even song, all of the above. Is the song of illimited joy, or is it a full-hearted song, or is it an even song, or is it all of the above? Of course, it's all of the above. In the poem, you'll find that all three adjectives are used to describe the song. So it's all of the above. What does evening song refer to? What does the evening song refer to? Song sung in the evening in the name of God. Song of the bird. Melodious song. Song with an even tone. Even song refers to song sung in the evening in the name of God. Song of the bird. Melodious song. Song with an even tone. The first option is correct, which is song sung in the evening in the name of God. That is even song. Next, what does blast beruffled mean? What does blast beruffled mean? A bomb blast, ruffled due to air, wings that are wet, none of the above. A bomb blast, ruffled due to the air, wings that are wet, or none. Of course, ruffled due to the air. The wings of the bird, of the thrush, they are ruffled with the strong gust of wind. So blast beruffled. Next, how does the mood of the poet speaker change after listening to the song? What change is brought about in the mood of the speaker once the speaker listens to the song? The mood changes from dejection to happiness. Be very careful. Dejection to happiness, sadness to hopelessness, dejection to puzzlement, desolation to melancholy. I repeat, the shift in the mood is from dejection to happiness. Does the poet become happy after being dejected in the beginning of the poem? Or from sadness to hopefulness, implying that in the beginning of the poem, the poet speaker was sad and now she or he is hopeless. Or from dejection to puzzlement, or from desolation to melancholy. The third option is correct, from dejection to puzzlement. See, in the beginning of the poem, the speaker was dejected. The speaker was very sad at, the kind of things that were happening around. mankind was haunting nigh, and broken lyre was there, and the tangled vine stems covered the sky, and frost was spectre grey. So it was, all very dejected and glum and gloomy. And towards the end of the poem, the poet speaker is puzzled. The poet speaker is confused. How come the thrush is singing? That is the matter of confusion. How is it that amidst all that chaos, amidst all that hopelessness, the thrush decides to sing? Which is why the correct option is that towards the end of the poem, the speaker's mood changes to puzzlement from desolation, from dejection. So that's the correct option. Next, where was the poet speaker when he looked at the tangled vine stems? Where was the poet speaker when he looked at the tangled vine stems? Was he on a riverbank, or inside a coppice, or under the trees on a barren landscape? When he looked at the tangled vine stems covered the sky like strings of broken lyre, in that part, where was he? Was he on a riverbank, inside a coppice, under the tree, on a barren landscape? He was on a barren landscape. Barren landscape stands in contrast with the greenery of the trees, the yellow screen, the warmth of the households, the inner feelings of the speaker. The barren landscapes, they are standing in contrast with what? Are they standing in contrast to the greenery of the trees, the yellow screen, the warmth of the households, the inner feeling of the speaker? The warmth of the households. The first stanza ends in all mankind that haunted nigh had sought the household fire. Household fire is warm. Next stanza, or the second stanza, opens with the century scopes outlined, right? So the contrast is between the warmth of the household fire and the century scopes. So barren landscape is in contrast with the warmth of household fires. Next, what does the speaker mean by spectre grey? What does the speaker mean by spectre grey? As grey as a ghost, a grey painting, Halloween costume, all of the above. As grey as a ghost, grey painting, Halloween costume, all of the above. As grey as a ghost. That was an easy question. Moving on, what reason does the speaker make out for the thrush's singing? What is the reason that the speaker deciphers that the thrush is singing for? Sadness, pain, joy, obscure. What does the poet speaker think as the reason? Does this poet speaker think that the thrush is singing out of sadness or pain or joy or obscure? Now see, this is again tricky. In the poem, it's written full-hearted even song with joy illimited, right? Joy illimited is there, but then again, the poet is in a state of puzzlement. Just now we did a question that the poet is now in a state of puzzlement. The poet does not know, in fact, the poet speaker does not know why exactly the thrush is singing. It's obscure, it's vague, it's very confusion oriented. So the last option is correct, that according to the poet speaker, the bird is singing for obscure reasons, which is why, which is why this song of the bird is seen as a comment on the bleakness of humankind. The song of the bird is basically, a sardonic comment on the state of affairs that human beings have landed themselves into. Because amidst all that chaos, the bird is singing. What does it show? It shows basically the perspective and the approach of human beings. Human beings, they have dug their own grave by doing all that according to the speaker. But the thrush is deciding to sing. It's obscure. It's vague. Which of the following words impact a connotation of sanctity to the poem? Which of the following words impact a connotation of sanctity, that means sacredness, to the poem? Carolings, evensong, blessed hope, all of the above. Which of the words, they lend a hint of sacredness, holiness? Carolings, evensong, blessed hope, all of the above. If you go back to the video of the themes and the thematic explanation and other nitty-gritties of the Darkling Thrush, I have explained how there is a Christian angle to it, with a full-hearted evensong and carolings and blessed hope and the three virtues of Christianity. So this has a Christian angle to it, which is why all of the above is the correct option here, because carolings, Christmas carolings, evensong, song of the church in the evening, blessed hope, hope being one of the three virtues of Christianity, all these, they lend a hint of sanctity, of sacredness, of holiness to the poem. Next, what was the reason behind the sorrow of the speaker? What was the reason behind the sorrow of the speaker? Death of a loved person, loss of faith in God and religion, failure and disillusionment, death of the century. Why was the speaker sad? Because of the death of a loved person, Loss of faith in God and religion, failure and disillusionment, and death of the century. Failure and disillusionment, death of the century, death of a loved person, they all will be ruled out. And loss of faith in God and religion is the most appropriate, answer over here, because the poet speaker says, sees that with the death of the century, humankind has come to a doom. Why? Because we are uplifting our faith from religion and humanity, and all that is coming to an end. Victorian crisis of faith. That's one of the themes. Moving on. The thrush is basically, the thrush represents harbinger of hope, relief to people, vague object, none of the above. The thrush is basically a dash. Harbinger of hope, relief to people, vague object, none of the above. Harbinger of hope. The thrush is basically heralding hope. The thrush is basically, an indication that something or the other is hopeful. Some hope is still left in the world. It can't be vague object because the song of the bird is vague. The reason why the bird is singing, that is vague. The bird in itself is not vague, right? So these confusing options can be there. Keep your mind open. The thrush is basically heralding hope, but in itself it's not vague, okay? Then moving on, which of the following is not a theme of the poem? Which of the following is not a theme of the poem? Be very careful. The council people, they can confuse you by, adding these little twists. Which of the following is not a theme of the poem? Search for meaning, sadness and disorientation, nature, none of the above. None of the above. Sadness is of course a theme of the poem because there is sadness and disorientation in the speaker's mind. Nature is represented at its lowest in the poem. Search for meaning, we are only looking for meaning, what will happen in the future, so search for meaning is a theme of the poem. None of the above is the right answer over here because all of the above options are a part of the theme of the poem. Last question, winter's dregs made desolate. Figure of speech used over here. Winter's dregs made desolate. Simile, metaphor, personification, alliteration. I'll leave that up to you to answer in the comment section. Which exactly is the figure of speech used over here? And let's see who can come up with the right answer. Until then, stay tuned to Academia. We will be coming up with more MCQs. We'll be coming up with more explanations of class 10 as well, whenever I can find time from my college. And till then, take care, keep studying. Goodbye.